Okay, that's enough of that. If at some point in the past century you've taken interest in video game discussion on the internet, then there's no doubt that you'll be familiar with speedrunning. Put simply, you finish a game as fast as possible, using all sorts of advanced tricks and exploits along the way. No matter how obscure a game is, I guarantee you that there's at least a small speedrunning community dedicated towards it. For this story, the title in question is none other than Marvel vs. Capcom 3: Fate of Two Worlds. First released in February 2011, the game was quickly overshadowed by Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3, a major update with new characters and features. As that game is the more common choice for Marvel vs. Capcom speedrunners and competitors, I wanted to go off the beaten path and return to vanilla as it's far less commonplace. It was delisted ages ago from digital storefronts and was never ported to modern systems, so the only official way to play vanilla is to pull out an old console from storage. But hang on, how does any of this relate to speedrunning? Well, I'm glad you asked, as after being inspired by my friend Sio, who is wicked good at Final Fantasy speedruns, I decided to run vanilla Marvel 3. With only 2 people on the leaderboards, this shouldn't be too hard, right? Before we go any further, it's important that we understand how a fighting game like Marvel vs. Capcom can fit into a speedrunning mold. Like with all fighting games, vanilla Marvel 3 features an arcade mode. You start the run when you've chosen your team of 3 fighters, then you defeat 6 other teams, and you end the timer when Galactus has been defeated. The goal of a Marvel 3 speedrun is to finish this arcade ladder as fast as possible, although there's a catch. It has to be completed on very hard difficulty. When playing casually with the default settings, arcade mode is as easy as pie, as unless you're a complete beginner, there's nothing too crazy going on. Enemies will often fail to block basic attacks or utilize tricky movement techniques, leaving themselves open for huge damage from pretty much anywhere on the screen. However, very hard makes it so that the CPU becomes a defensive beast, blocking even the deadliest of sequences. In order to overcome this, you need to find a team with offensive tools strong enough to overpower the CPU, and after watching 2023's world record speedrun, I started to crack the code. Set by Italian guy 765 on the 16th of November, Sentinel, Hagar, and Deadpool were the speedrun kings through their team's high damage and zoning tools. At least, this is what I initially thought. While watching Italian guys run, I noticed that Sentinel was putting in all the work, with his partners only coming in to begin or extend combos. With a final time of 7 minutes and 7 seconds, I knew that the way to beat that would involve a slightly more active team, one that would be specifically built around Sentinel. I chose to keep this lovable rust bucket for his extreme damage and short combos. You would never be concerned with combo length during regular play, but in the context of a speedrun, a few seconds can be the difference between a successful or failed run, so I needed these combos to be as short as possible. After hosting auditions for potential team members, I settled on Storm and Wesker for 2 major reasons. The first is that Wesker's OTG assist allows Sentinel to extend combos for extra damage and meter gain, and the second is that Hailstorm is perfect for team supers. This attack hits OTG, meaning I can use it after a hard knockdown for easy wins. Unlike Sentinel, both Storm and Wesker take considerable time to finish their combos, so they'll solely be used in support positions. The best way for me to describe the speedrun team is that Sentinel is the MVP and should always remain on point, whereas Storm and Wesker will only be used for their assist and team super potential. This is all well and good, but the cherry on top of the sundae is that for the past 3 or so years, I've been an active member of the Australian Marvel 3 scene. Running tournaments, doing commentary, and playing casuals with other awesome community members is my MO, but I used to be an arcade mode fiend before I started attending locals. Hell, arcade mode on very hard is literally how I learnt to play the game back in high school, so I felt very comfortable during my speedrun preparation. With an efficient team and years of experience under my belt, it was time to practice and form a consistent strategy.
Target is no longer a threat.
In the beginning, I assumed that taking the game plan in my head and applying it in real arcade mode matches would be a cakewalk, but it turned out to be far more challenging than I anticipated. As mentioned earlier, the very hard CPU loves to block, and this makes landing the initial hit a nightmare. Sometimes you can get it with no issues, and other times you'll never get it, so it's purely up to RNG if your strike connects or not. Assuming I land the hit now, I'll need a solid yet concise combo to repeat throughout the run. The one I settled on was Crouching Medium, Launcher, Magic Series, Wesker Assist, Launcher, Magic Series, Rocket Punch. Crouching Medium hits multiple times and has super armor, allowing me to blow through enemy attacks, and it gets even better if they call an assist. As previously mentioned, Wesker's portion leads to extra damage and meter gain, which I need to fuel Storm's team super. When I had all this figured out, I felt like nothing was going to stop me, but then that ugly RNG reared its head around the corner. At this point, I realized that if I was going to beat the world record, I would need to figure out a way to manipulate RNG in my favor, and I remembered that such a strategy exists with Dante. If you perform jumping medium as the CPU enters the screen on incoming, you will always hit them, guaranteed. Taking this same logic and applying it to Sentinel, I found that if you input jumping launcher on incoming, a similar phenomenon takes place. The timing for this is very strict, but if I could make it consistent, it would save me loads of time. Making things even more convenient is X Factor, a mechanic that buffs damage, speed, and even regenerates red health. I first experimented with popping X Factor right away on the first character, but then I'd have to take out the final fighter without it, slowing me down. I then altered my strategy, saving X Factor for the final two opponents, and when combined with the jumping launcher technique, it results in extremely fast kills. To recap, my strategy is to land crouching medium, route into a basic combo, and do it again to get the first kill. Then, the unblockable into X Factor would get the second kill, and then I would unblockable the final character to win the match. I would need to repeat this 6 times before reaching Galactus, and once here, I was forced to deal with his minions. When the battle begins, it appears as though you're participating in a fight where the enemy has no backup. Sounds good, right? Well, the moment that you're given control, an invisible doomsday timer begins. When the clock strikes 0, another enemy will jump in, and they both love to screw you over. At this point, performing combos and supers is nearly impossible, as they can easily interrupt you by moving all over the place. If I perform the same combo route and end in a super, the second opponent will jump in during the attack, meaning they will both instantly go down. From here, I can then move on to Galactus. The final step is to defeat Big Purple over here, and despite his size, he's the easiest part of the run. It's as simple as building meter, X Factor, Team Super, and then repeat when possible to take him out. Galactus' attacks are telegraphed in such a way that even Helen Keller can see them coming, so they're very easy to defend against. Overall, I need to blitz through 6 regular stages, the minion battle, and the Galactus fight in under 7 minutes and 7 seconds. After doing a few practice runs off camera, I then felt confident enough to hit record and see if I could swipe the world record. Thankfully, my first attempt was off to a fantastic start. The enemy AI was wonderfully complacent and just let me hit them in the legs as many times as I wanted to, so I wrapped up the first stage in 45 seconds, no issues here. The second stage had somewhat of a rough start, as Akuma and Felicia paired up to damage Sentinel, but I was able to quickly correct this. Thanks to Akuma's low health, I was even able to take him out in 1 rep. Sea Viper also went down as intended, and although I mistimed the unblockable on Felicia, I used Crouching Medium's armor to absorb her strike, leading to the first Team Super of the run. 2 stages were completed in just over a minute and a half, so not bad. Stage 3 introduced MODOK, and with his global warming butthole fire, he was able to cleanly fly away from any of Sentinel's grounded strikes. Luckily, I was able to put an end to this and begin my game plan, but after the combo ended, his defense went crazy and I lost time by being hit by his command grab super. I finally took him out with a DHC after reacting to his laser beam, and his partners were defeated in record time. At this point, I looked over at my splits and felt pretty good about how ahead I was from my previous attempt, but I'm not gonna lie, I was super nervous. Making things worse was having to fight Thor, as he's the healthiest character in the whole game. Not being able to use X Factor to take him out could make or break the run, but he was kind enough to go down without much of a fight, and the same goes for his teammates. I was at the 3 minute and 30 second mark here, so I only had another 3.5 minutes or so left before I was too late. In a hearty attempt to troll me, Magneto effortlessly avoided my attacks, dealing big damage to poor Sentinel in the process. Luckily, I knew that if you get hit by his projectile and roll forward, the AI will always do another one, leaving him open for punishment. Keeping up with the trend of partners being helpless, Beautiful Joe and Zero were eliminated in the blink of an eye. Moving on to stage 6 now, this went perfectly with no issues at all, and with a time of 5 minutes and 3 seconds, I now had around 2 minutes to finish the final stage. To introduce Galactus, the game has him literally rip through the previous stage's result screen. This is an incredible visual effect, but the accompanying cutscene is unskippable, leading to around 20 seconds being wasted. Unfortunately, Wesker read my input and punished me, big time. I was able to get my combo started soon after, but at this point it was far too late, as Dormammu spawned in to make things even harder. At this point, everything I could think of went wrong. Sentinel died, I accidentally misinputted X Factor early, and my meter was gone. This was the absolute worst case scenario, and I considered calling it quits, but then I noticed the time. It was possible for me to wrap up in under 7 minutes, so I decided to just keep going. By using Storm's air normals and Wesker's assist, I was able to whittle down Galactus' life bar, and with my last 2 bars of meter, I used another Team Super to finish him off. In record time I might add, as my final time was 6 minutes and 51 seconds. Even with all my mistakes and bad RNG, I beat the previous world record by 16 seconds. After submitting my run and having it verified by the Speedrun.com moderator, I was now officially the world's fastest vanilla Marvel 3 player. It felt amazing being in first place, but in the back of my mind, I knew that I could do even better. If I just got luckier here and there and cleaned up the Galactus fight, I could shave off even more time, but at this point it was around 2 in the morning and I just wanted to go to bed. After I woke up feeling refreshed, I turned on my Xbox and I tried again, bad RNG be damned. The time to beat was now 6 minutes and 51 seconds, and with the same strategy as before, I booted into arcade mode and gave the run another shot. It was my lucky day, as in the literal first second of the match I scored a happy birthday. Sea Viper unfortunately dropped out of the combo, but with how quickly I was able to take out Mororin and Ami, this didn't matter too much. With a new time of 33 seconds for the first stage, this current run was already 12 seconds faster than before. Stage 2 went normally, as although Magneto cost me some time, it wasn't a huge deal. The next level could have gone horribly if Dr. Doom began a combo, but he only did a single foot dive, which I was able to easily punish. After my combo ended, he called in Storm, which meant that I had to try and take out both of them on the fly. After reacting to my crouching medium, I hit confirmed into launcher to send her upwards, activated Plasma Storm to catch her on the way down, X-Factored and then did it again. I have to say that this was incredibly risky, as at any point during this sequence, Doom could have performed a snapback to send Sentinel to the sidelines, but I had no other options. Fortunately, this worked as intended, and I was able to take out Captain America. 3 stages being cleared under the 2.5 minute mark was incredibly quick, and I was once again feeling quite confident. My confidence was then shattered by Dormammu attempting to fight back, but he forgot to watch his legs, so it worked out fine in the end. Shumagorath and Ryu were nice enough to get hit by my jumping launcher, meaning that I was halfway through at the 3 minute mark. Stage 5 started with another happy birthday, and I made sure to see this one through to completion. She-Hulk should have been defeated here, but I messed up my combo and lost some time being hit by her super. When the match was over, I had a time of just under 4 minutes. Stage 6, much like last time, went perfectly, and there's not much to say honestly. Moving on to Galactus, I knew that the fights against his minions had to be perfect, and I was gonna once again bet it all on crouching medium. By some miracle, this worked out, and I was able to defeat the second enemy during Plasma Storm, just like how I explained it before. With more meter, X-Factor, and a full team, I was now over a minute faster than my previous attempt, so I just had to punch through with Sentinel's air normals. These instantly build meter, and after a few reps, I popped X-Factor and did a team super. To wrap up, I repeated the cycle and ended up with a new time of 5 minutes and 58 seconds. Going from a 6:51 to a 5:58 is massive, and I'm still shocked that I was able to clear very hard in under 6 minutes. Once again, the run was verified, and I beat my old record by nearly a full minute. The very hard run is heavily dependent on RNG, so the AI often doesn't play ball. This causes you to lose minutes of time as you attempt to catch them with crouching medium. My original plan was to have my 5:58 on the leaderboard and move on with my day, but something compelled me to come back to see if I could get the timer down even faster. I was originally going for a simple practice run, but I had a gut feeling that this one would be special, so I ended up recording it. After a first stage that took longer than before, I was 6 seconds slower but decided to carry on anyway. Stage 2 started off horribly, as Sentinel was immediately snapped out by Shenko, but after tagging him back in, the stars aligned and granted me a happy birthday. If this hadn't happened, I probably would have ended the run prematurely, and looking back, I'm still shocked at how lucky I was here. I now had a 7-second head start over my previous attempt for Stage 2, but with the time loss from before, I was really only 1 second ahead. Stage 3 also had a miserable beginning, as Jill was too slippery for me to catch, and when I did hit her, my combo dropped. However, MODOK must have taken a liking to me, as he sacrificed himself via a happy birthday, but the moment it failed, I had to act quickly. Drones into crouching medium was to keep Jill in block stun, and Plasma Storm was to take her out through chip damage. MODOK's arrival, with most of his life bar being gone, was a blessing in disguise, as it allowed me to defeat him without X-Factor, which I had ready for Felicia. Even with all the mistakes, I had saved roughly 5 seconds on this stage, so pretty good. Stage 4, thankfully, started off really well, but Wesker's counter super forced me to pop X-Factor early. This wasn't too bad though, as I was able to defeat him as well as Magneto without using meter, saving me another 7 seconds. At this point, my adrenaline was going into overdrive, as if things kept going well, I could easily beat my 5:58. Sentinel and Zero wasted my time in Stage 5 with a combo, and Wesker somehow missed his OTG assist from here. I thought this only happened to small characters. Anyway, I habitually activated X-Factor as I expected Sentinel to be shot, but he let me hit him low. In retrospect, this actually worked out for the better, as I was able to reset damage scaling and eliminate him faster. Zero went down faster than I can say broken top tier, but Hulk was the real threat of the run so far. Having to decimate his health bar with no X-Factor left was a nightmare, especially when he landed his super. If Sentinel got sent to the scrap heap, it would all be over, but I clutched out the win with a 6-second deficit. Stage 6's Captain America had me about to quit out of frustration, but after tossing me around like a ragdoll, the luckiest thing so far happened. I was far away enough to blow through Hagar's Lariat assist with crouching medium for a happy birthday. If you don't know, Lariat is notorious for having upper body invincibility, so in most circumstances, Sentinel would instantly lose this interaction. To top it off, the victim is forced into a hard knockdown state, which would have cost me even more time had it hit me during the run. Thank goodness that it worked out in my favor, huh? After taking Dormammu out with a Team Super, I now had a 10-second lead over my previous Stage 6 attempt. All that was remaining was the final boss, and as long as I could land crouching medium on the first of Galactus' minions, a new record could definitely happen. Yeah, the minion fight didn't go so well, but I was able to quickly tag Sentinel back in and make short work of both enemies. To be real, this could have gone way worse, even if it was already horrible. Now let me tell you, having to wait through this painful, unskippable cutscene while watching the timer edge closer and closer to 5:58 almost gave me a heart attack, but at least I had meter and X Factor ready to go. Unlike my other attempts, my Team Super didn't interrupt Galactus' attack animation, so he hit me with a Merry Christmas. At this point, he must have noticed how badly I wanted a new record, so he left himself vulnerable by walking forward and just doing nothing. I capitalized on this by performing air combos to build meter, and when I got 2 bars, I did another Team Super. This resulted in a new world record of 5:51, leaving me leaning back in my chair with satisfaction. It may have only been 5 minutes in real time, but the anxiety made the run feel like 5 hours, and I'm unsure if I'll be able to beat it going forward. Hey, Editing Carnage here to tell you something important. So after I recorded the voiceover for this video, I managed to set yet another record. This time I lowered it to a 5:40, which is pretty crazy, and I hope to beat it again in the future. After beating the world record, I was gonna move on with my day and probably read a book or something, but then I noticed that there was another category for default settings. This means you have to play through arcade mode on normal difficulty, and after beating very hard, normal didn't sound too challenging. With the only run being nearly 15 minutes long, I knew that I could easily beat this if I kept cool and went with the same team, so I went off to the races once again. I achieved a time of 5 minutes and 53 seconds in an unrecorded practice run, but I knew I could do better, so I gave it another shot. Default is more or less the exact same run as before, but with less threatening enemy AI, so the chances of landing crouching medium shoots up exponentially. There's not much to elaborate on here, as aside for some massive happy birthdays in various stages, everything went according to the plan. My combo strategy was just as effective as before, and before I knew it, I was staring down Galactus. His minions once again blinked out of existence, and I was able to loop air normals and supers to take the big guy out. My final time was 5 minutes and 6 seconds, which is way faster than the previous record. At this point, you know the drill. I submitted the run, had it verified, and received the top spot on the leaderboard. With how simple the category is, I'm surprised that no one else has even attempted a default run. There's very little challenge, and it only requires basic routing, so anyone can do it in their sleep. You may think that all of this took me forever to do, but in reality, I got the records in just under 24 hours. My first practice run was at 12:32 AM, and I got the first record at 1:56 AM. The second record was completed at 1:26 PM the same day, meaning I did all of this incredibly quickly. That whole strategy portion where I formulated a game plan, yeah, I got that done in around 15 minutes, believe it or not. With how much I grinded arcade mode back in high school, I came into this challenge with a bunch of game knowledge, so there wasn't a whole lot that I didn't already know. Remember what I said before about Dante's jumping medium? Well, I brute forced that years ago when experimenting with the AI, so discovering something similar with Sentinel was pretty easy. With how strong the CPU's defense can be, it may seem like you'll never get a hit in, but there are guaranteed ways to crack their shells. You just have to possess specific game knowledge. With that being said, even the most proficient of players can be screwed over by bad RNG, so there definitely is some luck involved. Actually, I would say that there's a lot of luck involved, as my involvement with the run wasn't anything crazy. If you really think about it, all I had to do was just loop the same combo over and over and over again before activating X Factor. This is extremely simple, but it can all go wrong if the game itself doesn't cooperate. In other words, you can perfectly adhere to your strategy and lose anyway because the enemy AI behaved in an unpredictable manner. Theoretically, yeah, it's possible to land happy birthdays and round start combos every single time, but the chances of this happening realistically are slim to none. You would have to be supercalifragilisticexpialidociously lucky to pull it all off, and I'm not sure if I'll be able to improve on my 5:51. On the other hand, I think that if I keep trying, I may be able to pull off a sub 5 minute default run, but even this is pushing it. God loves a trier after all, so I won't call it quits just yet. Although Marvel 3 was my first fighting game speedrun, I've dabbled with the hobby before, and I'm actually 19th in the world for Super Dante any percent runs in the original Devil May Cry. Upon reflecting on how much fun that was to do, I thought that taking the logic behind a speedrun and trying it out within the lens of a fighting game would be pretty cool, and man, I loved it! I can't describe how rewarding it felt when I recorded the 5:51 and had it verified, it was awesome. After that, I ended up getting the records for Capcom vs SNK 2 and Street Fighter X Tekken. Most speedruns that I've seen, just generally, take at least 30 to 40 minutes to clear, with some taking hours, but I've always preferred the shorter ones. There's something cool about seeing a player blitz through arcade mode with ease, and I would love to even see a combo trials category for vanilla Marvel 3, but for now, I'm happy with grinding out arcade mode. If you made it all the way to the end of the video, thank you so much for watching. This style of video was very different to what I normally create, and it was good fun figuring out how to explain everything. Anyway, I appreciate you and your time, and I hope you had fun. Take care, and I'll see you in the next one.